to episode 2 of Inside WHS. This is the athletics episode where we'll be talking about everything sports at the high school. Every sport, coaches, practices, games, mentality, everything like that. Today we have a special guest, Patrick Stokes. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Patrick Stokes, and I'm the class president for the class of 2023. Throughout high school, I've played golf, baseball, basketball, and football, and I'm excited to be here, so thank you for having me.
Oh, our pleasure.
Nice
our
to have
pleasure.
you, Stokes.
Started out Ings. Favorite sport you played at the high school? Why?
Well, despite my 4 years of football and my great time in that, I will have to admit that wrestling was probably my favorite sport that I played at the high school because of the new and fun experience it was. It was just an awesome sport to be a part of, and I wish I started freshman year. Biggest regret in high school.
Damn.
Note to those incoming 8th graders, if you're going into freshman year thinking, I want to try something new, I'm nervous to do it, just do it.
Yeah, no, I was trying to figure out when I was coming to the high school, I didn't know if it was like, I'd always played basketball and soccer, so I was like, oh, I'll just play those. But I know like a big thing is track, and like Stokes, you could probably touch on this, but like they don't have golf in middle school, do they?
Definitely not. Golf's kind of a unique sport at the high school, but it's really been an incredible experience, and the only reason I really got into it was because, my grandparents have shown me golf throughout my whole life, but my brother had played it in high school, and I really looked up to that. So I decided to give it a try, and it's really been a great experience for me. So it's definitely something to try out if you're just coming into the high school and you want to look for something to do. It's an incredible experience.
Yeah, I feel like the sports that like the high school is known for are kind of sports that aren't like sports that are in middle school and stuff like that. Like obviously football and hockey are pretty big, but like track and cross country, wicked successful at the high school. Like for example, swimming, you have like Ethan Ryan, who's like
Really
crazy good at swimming. Hannah Brayson wrestling.
Overall, and she's an amazing track athlete.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
I mean,
She set a school record, Dillon.
not familiar with her game like that, I
Yeah,
guess.
well,
But that's on me.
She's very involved with the sports. Ethan Ryan's another good example. Patrick Stokes, another good example of kid very involved with the athletics here at the high school. Makes a lot of change.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
little Stokes shout out.
Yeah, there's like good kids in like all these different sports, but I also think there's a lot of kids that like are from Wilmington. For example, like I was a soccer captain. I'm a big soccer guy at the high school. Not like big, like talented. I'm saying like I'm a fan.
Yeah, you like soccer.
There's a lot of kids in our grade who are really, really good at soccer, but they end up at like Central Catholic. They end up at a couple kids went to the Tech, stuff like that. Like the MVC, which is Central Catholic's like division, the MVP of that league was Ryan Thomas, a kid from Wilmington.
Yep.
No, don't you're good. Yeah, and so there's a lot of talented kids, like James Fisher's from Wilmington.
Yeah.
He's like literally, didn't he just get drafted or something like that?
Yeah,
You
got
could draft the
drafted
NHL,
in the
right? Blue
So it's
Jackets.
like, he's not even like, he didn't go to Wilmington High School. So I feel like there's got to be a way for Wilmington High School to kind of improve and try and get these kids to stay here. I don't know if either of you have anything to say.
I think a lot of it just starts like younger. I mean, if you look at some of these big sports that we have here, like track or hockey or whatnot, you see a bunch of kids going to these other towns, and I think that's because we don't really build up the high school from the beginning. And I know from my perspective, having played baseball my whole life, and having an older brother who came here who played and watching him play, I always wanted to come here and play. But for those who don't really have that kind of opportunity, then we have to bring it to them. I know for baseball, we've gone and done like the parade that the Little League does, and we've gone and marched that with them, and we've done other similar stuff. But I think that a lot of sports should try to really get involved with the middle school or maybe even younger ages to really build up their excitement to go to the high school.
Yeah.
I know one way we're doing that is this summer there's a wrestling camp
Oh,
in
really?
July. Yeah.
Oh, that's
It's for like
nice.
middle schoolers and younger kids at the youth of Wilmington.
Are you helping out?
I will unfortunately not be able to go because I have a separate summer job, but
Yeah.
I will be there in spirit because I think it'd be really beneficial because we had a really small wrestling program this winter. There's I think 14 of us.
Yeah.
The teams reversed had 30 kids, 30 to 40 kids, and so we're just trying to really reach the younger kids of the community and try and build up the wrestling program.
Yeah, and I feel like this kid's like you didn't play until what, senior year?
First and last year wrestling, senior
And
year.
you love it, so it's like there's
I
got to
loved
be
it.
ways to reach these kids.
Yeah.
Even like kids at the high school. And one thing that I think the school does good with that is like you see at basketball games or at like field hockey, like senior days, stuff like that. You have like travel kids who like come and they like interact with them, like they help with the senior, like when they're getting their flowers and taking pictures, you'll see like kids travel basketball games. Like there'll be nights where all the kids can go to the high school games for free and stuff like that. I think that's good. And like, of course, football games, a bunch of like Pop Warner kids go to the games and stuff. So I think there needs to be more like that kind of keeps kids, as Stokes said, like interested, like want to go to the high school rather than just feel like it's an option. Like it should feel like the option.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. I mean, when you look at the high school, and I talked to one of my coaches, Chris Greco. He's just recently went to the high school.
Good dude.
He's a good guy, but he teaches at the middle school, and in an assembly they asked the students who would consider going to the tech, and he said just about everybody raised their hand. So I definitely think that we need to start trying to reach out to that younger age range to try to get them to the high school now.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think another thing we need to focus on is once we get kids to go to the high school, right? You said we got to reach out towards the younger kids. Once they're at the high school, how can we keep up their training in there? Like, do you think there's improvements to be made in our training facilities or
Yeah, for sure.
helping our athletes become better?
Yeah, I feel like I know you're a big advocate of the weight room.
Yep. Huge advocate of a better weight room.
Yeah. From soccer and then also basketball when I played that. The weight room for basketball, I think they do use the weight room. Do you know?
Basketball, I think they did a little bit. I'm not quite sure. I only played for my freshman to sophomore year.
Yeah.
So and that was also when the COVID regulations were around. So it was really difficult to get into the weight room then. But now I think they do regularly. I know football obviously did.
Like
so does
wrestling, I'd
I'm
imagine.
sure you
Yeah.
can
Well,
expand on that.
during wrestling season, I walk by the weight room every day, come out of the locker room, and the basketball team wouldn't be in there. But it's like here's my thing with the weight room. It's a pretty good weight room, right? The equipment really isn't the problem. Like they could add a few more things in there to
Like
make it more
space.
diverse. It's a space thing.
Yeah.
It's really hard to have team lifts in there because of how small it is.
Yeah, and
It's
the team's small.
tiny.
Your wrestling team was small, as you said, right?
Yeah,
So it's like if you can't fit 13 kids in there, how are you going to be able to fit
a football team,
football team,
like
basketball
40
team?
kids. You get more like 8 to 12 kids. It starts to get crowded in there, and not a lot of space to get a good workout in.
Yeah.
I just think
100%.
I definitely think Wilmington has the equipment. It's just we need a little bit more space in order to really enhance our training programs for our athletes.
Yeah. I also think, were you going to say something? Another thing is, so obviously, like, with certain seasons, there's more sports in certain seasons than others. And so you have to figure out who's on what field at what time. A huge problem for soccer, in my opinion, and pretty much everyone who plays soccer would agree. We practice at the North every day after school. That field is so bad. Every team we play practices on turf, plays on turf. Most of our games are on turf, and it's a completely different experience. I mean, Stokes, you played a little bit in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I played like travel soccer off the outside of the high school.
Yeah.
But I never realized how big a difference turf and soccer and grass fields actually are, and how big of a difference it makes.
It's weird, and also it's like uneven at the North, so like it's literally a calf workout constantly. If I'm running, like so many cramps. Every single year we have like preseason games at the North. At least 3 kids go down with cramps in the first game.
Oof.
And it's calves only, like because the field is uneven, so it's like it's difficult on like calves and stuff like that because you're not used to like balance, and it's squishy. It's just
Yeah.
awful. then again, I don't know how much of that is like the school can control just because
Yeah.
it's like,
So many, they can't really control the amount of teams that there are and the scheduling and all that.
it's just tough because like people won't be at Yentile sometimes and we could practice there.
Yeah.
Then again, it's tough. But it's just like little stuff like that kind of, it just adds up and there's bugs there. And it's just, it gets frustrating over the course of the season. So
Yeah.
that's another take on like the equipment.
I definitely think another thing is I think we need to utilize what we have better.
Yeah.
Like we have the weightlifting equipment, but it doesn't really get used that much by teams. The basketball team's been using it more, but other than that, like the football team will use it, but not. Sometimes the track kids will be in there, but especially during the summer, there's very little summer programs going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to kind of add on to like what you said, the track team I know goes in there a lot. Mr. Kinney's always
In there.
throwing some weight around in there.
I used to go in there after wrestling. Kenny would still be in there with his little jeans and
Kenny's
shirt on,
always
Yeah.
throwing the
pumping iron.
but,
Love to see it.
I mean, I think it kind of shows like when I mean the football team over the past few years have been pretty successful, and same as the track, and they've all been putting the work in the weight room, and you really kind of see the difference it's making. So I think we do have to
Yeah.
utilize it a lot better as
I think
a school.
I think we have the equipment. I think the spacing could be better, and I think the utilization of what we have, because it's there. It's just how can we get it to the next level
And like
really,
involved in practice too. I
Yeah.
think like especially with soccer, it's like there's no weight aspect involved in it. And high school soccer is like pretty physical. Like you wouldn't
Yeah.
expect it, but it is. Like that's just
Yeah.
how it is. And so you'll see teams that are just bigger than us, taller than us, because it's
Yeah.
a pretty short team. So it's just like
Yeah.
stuff like that. Also, quick question for you, Stokes. Baseball guy, obviously. Do you guys like use the cages a lot? I've always wondered that because I'll see you guys in there sometimes.
So we usually will use it during practice. We actually get a lot of use out of the cages overall. During practices, when, say, we'll split it up between the infield and the outfield, a lot of times the infield will be in the cages and the outfield will be practicing on the field or vice versa. So we actually get a lot of use out of it, and we're able to use it pre-game too to warm up. So I think it's been really useful for us. I think that a lot of us could probably benefit from trying to use it more outside of practice, like on our own, separate, or even as a team, just outside of practice. But I would say that it's pretty useful, and we're actually getting a lot of use out of it, more than I actually would have expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we can transition to the next topic, I guess. This is one thing about Wilmington sports that I think, especially at the high school, is very good. In really every sport, is kind of like the team bonding aspect. I'm
Yes.
sure all of us have had different experiences with it, but it's all like, I've never heard somebody who hasn't made friends in a sport or who quit a sport because of the people in it. Just like team dinners, stuff like that, like just having fun at practice while also like working hard. But it's also like you kind of form a little
Yeah.
community and stuff like that.
It's
I
like
don't know.
it's a little family going on.
It
I
really
know,
is.
I know football, like the team dinners for football were absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
It-
I could
like,
only imagine.
A lot of times it would just be, go have just a great time, eat some food, be with your buddies, and then some few people would stay after a little later than everyone else. Be a fire going on, sitting around the fire, hanging out.
It's awesome.
So it's a really good, like, I know one time we went down to Silver Lake, and someone jumped in the water there.
Yeah.
It's just a really good time. It's just great family experience. You really create good brotherly bonds through these team dinners.
Nice. Yeah, agree. Anything?
Yeah, I think just to add on, especially one of the biggest examples for me through team bonding has been with golf, which might seem like a surprise because it's such a small team, but I think that comes in as a benefit because
Yeah.
I know when we had our E. coli outbreak this year, we all went to the 99s in Tewksbury, and we were all able to fit in one car, which shows how small the team is, but at the same time, it also helps because we were all in there blasting music and really having a good time. And, I mean, you always kind of look into it, and I think for me this year, I came into the season expecting it to be a little less fun than last year because I knew all the seniors. I was friendly with a bunch of them, and they were all they had all left. But I had more fun this year during golf than I had in any other season in any other sport I've ever played, and a lot of that came through with the team dinners and just doing stuff outside of outside of like the game itself, whether it be going to a restaurant or just hanging out as a group.
Yeah, I feel like it impacts the team's success so much, and just like the content of like the happiness of the kids on the team. And the biggest like example I have from my experience to show that is like kind of similar to what Stokes said about the seniors leaving. Cross grades, you make like some of my best friends of the past like 2 years are juniors that were on the soccer team with me for like 2 years. I know them so well now. And because you know people so well, it makes you want to kind of work harder together as a team to win more. Like over the summers and stuff, we'd have captains practices, and it would just be so much more motivated than the year before because we were all so much closer now.
Yeah.
So like we're pushing each other more. We're comfortable with each other to the point where it's not like we're like practicing alongside one another. We're practicing with one another.
Yeah.
And it was so much different, especially if like we had a really bad my junior year. And so it's really easy to get like morale down and stuff like that. And our coach isn't really too heavily involved in soccer. Like he's fine, but it's just like there's a lot that gets put on the players. So I think it's really important that we were all able to come together and like we want to win. It doesn't matter like if we're actually going to or not, but we would work for it even if it was like, I don't know how to explain it. Like even with the dark cloud over us.
Yeah. You're still together as a team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a good experience.
I think you touched upon it kind of like slightly, but the grade barrier, the barrier between grades really is broken through these team dinners and the team aspect in the athletics of Wilmington. I am like a lot of times people go to high school like, oh, as a freshman, don't talk to the upperclassmen because they're older than me. No, they have nothing to do. They don't want anything to do with me.
Yeah.
But I think a little voice crack there, but
It's all good.
I really think through sports that barrier has been broken for me. But I was able to connect when I was a freshman for football. Some of the juniors on the team, my brothers were seniors, so it was a little bit easier for me. But even the other freshmen, like Peter, Watson, you were able to connect with the seniors more because of our interactions with them. That like outside practice things, like even just in the locker room, being able to interact with them and share that space with them, really allowed us to connect with them. Team dinners as we got older allowed us to connect with the younger guys because it creates that family bond and spending time with them, and it creates more trust on the team, like you said. You're with them, not just existing around them.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of add on to that, Ings. I know this year coming into golf, and to reiterate it, I saw there was one incoming freshman that was going to play, and this is not necessarily an uncommon thing, as golf isn't like the most common sport. But I didn't think that he was going to be all that social and really talk to us much. And at the beginning of the season, when we would have away games, we'd go in the bus and we'd all sit in the back, and he didn't want to come to the back. But one time he really just kind of opened his mouth, and he never really stopped talking after that. And he's a really funny kid. He's Nathan Carrier, and he
Yes, sir.
we
I
actually
love that
got
kid.
really close. Rem Dog, we actually came really close during the season, and I think that really shows, because even now, months and months later, if I see him, I'll always say hi and ask him how it's going, and I'll even like ask the team entirely if they want to go golfing still, and that just shows the friendships that it makes. Even doesn't really matter what age you are for through the sports, because you really see how the seniors or freshmen, sophomores, whatever, they'll interact with each other and kind of gain a bond from that sport.
Yeah, I think one thing about the high school in specific that really helps with all that is because, again, you've talked about golf a lot, Ings, wrestling a lot. Those are small teams, as both of you have mentioned, so it's like you get to know everybody more, where if you go to like a big school, like a private school or even the tech, the teams can be bigger, which is good because it's like sometimes you'd think they'd be better. But it's also, you get to know each other a lot better, I feel like, at the high school in specific. because of like kind of the community aspect around sports, but also because of like, I don't know, it's smaller teams. You get to know every individual person. So you have people who are seniors that are friends with freshmen, and then like sophomores and juniors and all that stuff. So
And even on like the bigger teams, like soccer teams, I feel like soccer is a pretty close knit group of guys.
yeah,
And I know football, we were all one big brotherly family. So you don't just see on the smaller teams, but you see that family bond on the bigger teams as well.
100%.
Yeah.
And I feel like with fans too,
Oh, 100%. The fan
because like
experience.
football, hockey, huge
fan
school
base.
events. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about it for days. You should probably warm it up with the band, because the band plays at all the
nice.
football games. I think hockey sometimes. too.
So they used to just do football, but and they'd be all in their Class A uniforms, big event, all the home games. People
Yeah.
would, go watch the football team, hear the amazing halftime show the band put on. They do a good job every year. But recently the band's been getting to the hockey team and basketball games. And unfortunately, because of wrestling, I wasn't able to attend any of the hockey or basketball games.
Yeah.
But the people that have gone have said that they just made those places electric with their playing and the songs they played and when they played them. And I really think it's cool that they're kind of able to really. I mean, already there was just a ton of energy at the hockey games when I used to go, but I know the band just brought that energy to a whole new level. I think it's really good for the crowd and just for the fan experience and the student body to be able to have that energy there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know one of my best friends, Owen Mitchell, he says he goes to the football games just for the band. He thinks that
That's
they're
awesome.
the only reason he goes, and no offense to you, Mings, but I mean, that's why he goes. I guess he doesn't really care about the game itself.
No.
But
I mean, like even a lot of you see that. Sorry to interrupt, but just to be quick. But you see that with the student section as well. Like kids will go just to hang out with friends and have a good time, right? It's a good way to just be with people, and just hang out with them and connect with them on a Friday night. Every home game.
100%.
yeah,
Also, I think the Owen Mitchell example is good. He's a sports guy, so he would probably like sports anyways. But you'll see kids, I'll see kids at these games that I've never seen before in my life. So I've never seen them walking around the school. And B, they're not sports people. So I always thought what makes kids come to this? What makes this kid go to a football game?
Yeah.
And it's really just the community aspect. Everybody looks forward to sports at the high school. Even if the teams are struggling, you see, the student section at the football games is massive.
But
It's massive.
We won 2 games last year, but every home game.
But it was still
no matter
awesome.
what, we still had a huge student section because one thing in Wilmington, we love to support one another. We're very big with the hoorah, let's go. Even though no one may think we're gonna win the game, but they're still gonna show up and support us and root us on and
Yeah.
have a great time. But
Yeah.
just I don't know, the community aspect of Wilmington is different.
I also think it's another good thing. It's not necessarily sports, but it's a school event type thing. It's the school plays, the band concerts, jazz band concerts, strings. A lot of people go to these events.
Yeah.
And I think it's good because it gets people involved in the school, whether you're into sports, whether you're into plays, acting, stuff like that. There's something for every single person.
Yeah.
And I know it's cliche to say that, but it's
Yeah, no, it's
literally
very true.
genuinely serious.
I think the mixture of performing arts, with band being at the football games, it really helps integrate those two kind of things together. Because I feel a lot of times people are oh, the band kids and the athletes.
Yeah.
I think having the band at hockey games, basketball games, football games kind of really breaks that barrier and really kind of takes two groups of kids that you may have been very stereotypically kind of separated and kind of brings them together and really creates a tight and strong community at Wilmington.
Yeah.
Through the fan base.
one thing with that too is that the band at the high school is just so big. I
Yeah.
mean, everybody does band. It's probably one of our more successful aspects of the high school in general. And when you see that the entire band is there and people who are supporting the band, and then you have the football team and everybody who's there to watch the football games, or people who are there just for the social aspect, and it's crazy to see that on those Friday night games or Thanksgiving morning or whenever it is, you really have probably half the high school there, and a lot of it is like a social aspect, and like a good social event. And I mean, it's great to watch the games and hear the band. So those games, I think, are a big part in uniting the school in general, and all the people in the school, and even like teachers and stuff. You see them there a lot of times, and it really just brings the high school past the classroom. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that I've noticed too is with kind of the community and like a bunch of people becoming good friends through sports, you'll see kids like, for example, my friend Patrick LeBlanc, not Patrick Stokes. He always wanted to play lacrosse, but none of our like friend group ever played it. But then you see kids becoming friends just through the community, just through the school, like hanging out with kids, whether it be in class, outside of school. And so he finally chose to play lacrosse this year,
Yeah.
and he's loving it because, again, it's just like the team dinners and stuff he's talked about, like little stuff like that. It just, anybody's welcome to join these sports at any time, no matter how old you are, what grade you are. And like, you'll see like a freshman walk past our lunch table, and everyone's like saying what's up to this little freshman kid I've never seen before, and it makes you want to be like, oh, who is this kid?
Yeah.
Get involved. It's like a big branch effect,
really
and everybody kind of knows each other.
It really helps you meet people as well. Make a lot of connections, like you just said. It makes a lot of connections. You meet new people through like your buddies trying new things, you trying new things. It's really nice to just connect the school together.
Yeah, and I think also kids have had a good experiences with like coaches too. With obviously you said Mr. Riley's convinced you to do like mock trial,
Yeah.
wrestling, stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of kids love Mr. Kinney. Like there's some teachers that are also coaches at the school that can get kids involved. And I think the good coaches, everybody knows the good coaches. They're very involved both in school and in sports. I don't know. Have you had any experiences like that?
I've actually had a lot. I know throughout my golf career, I've had Mr. Lynch as my coach, and he recently retired as a teacher, and now he's retired as a coach as well. But he's always been really into golf, and I never had him as a teacher, but I know from other kids that he would walk around his classroom swinging a golf club and always talking about that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's good to see, and like I've mentioned earlier, I've had Chris Greco as a coach for 3 years now, and having a coach where you could talk to, whether it be about your sport, outside your sport, your problems or your good times or whatnot, it's really a great thing to have because it really kind of ties you closer to that sport, to the team in general, and makes you feel more comfortable when you go to that sport. I've had plenty of coaches that are great, but I know next year, and I won't have the chance to play for him, but I know Mr. Maloney, he will be the golf coach next year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
It would definitely be interesting because he's a great guy, and he'd probably be a lot of fun to go and play around with. But I think, yeah, I've had plenty, and most of the coaches that we have, I know you've had Scanlon, and you had Frizz with freshman year.
Yeah.
Same team. It really kind of makes a difference and brings the team closer when you have a coach you can really talk to.
Yeah. Anything?
I was going to ask, what do you guys think the coaching is overall? It's like at Wilmington. How do you think the coaches help their players, or how could some coaches, are there any places where you think coaches could do better in supporting their players?
Yeah, I feel like coaches could do better in some aspects, but I think the aspects that coaches lack. Here's an example. I feel like certain coaches take a more laid back approach where they let the players or the students, however you want to describe it, they kind of take a step back and they like want the students to kind of run the offense, or they want the players to kind of figure out how to develop their skills on their own, which is I think that's really helpful in like individual development. For example, like I was a captain for soccer this year, and Coach Scanlon kind of he kind of let us dictate how we wanted to run stuff. If like adjustments that had to be made, he let us deal with that some of the time, which is good, but like he would give us advice and stuff. but he would mostly let us figure it out. So I think that worked really well in developing team trust, kind of, because we all kind of got on the same wavelength, but we also were able to like get better at the sport. So that's one thing I kind of liked about soccer.
I think to add on to that, it's kind of subjective to what sport you play, because
100%.
I think you look at the sport like hockey or football, and you have these huge teams that I'm sure it's more difficult to coach and get a good relationship with every player. But I haven't really had the experience to play on huge teams like that. But I know for most of the times that I've played, the coaches have been pretty good. They've been able to connect with the players and have been able to really help you. For me, one of the most interesting experiences has been this last baseball season. I'm one of the baseball captains, and they were hiring a new head coach, and they had me and the other baseball captain, Jacob Broke, actually take part in interviewing the new possible candidates for the head coach. So we interviewed 4 people, and it was a great experience because we got to meet the coach, and we actually were able to interview our new head coach now, Matt McManus, who's been doing an incredible job. And it's really good to see how the athletic director, Mr. Ingram, has kind of gone through the process of hiring a new coach, and how he has gone through the process of getting to know the program and the players, and how he's gone through it really well. So I think, at least from that aspect, he's done a great job, and I know other coaches have done similarly.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Anything?
I think, yeah. Well, I think the overall coaching at the high school is really good. I definitely think the coaches are pretty involved with their players. I think one aspect that could be better is, like you said, Eric Fisher, James Fisher, Ryan Thomas. I think a lot of those kids are probably trying to play at the next level.
Yeah.
I think one thing that coaches could improve on here is helping their players get to the next level.
Yeah, 100%.
If you look, going into this year, the senior year, I was thinking, we're not going to have a lot of kids that sign with colleges. We had a lot of kids from our grade sign with colleges.
Yeah.
And that's most of them was because of their club sport experiences. I think we need to look at how can coaches in the school get involved with kids getting to the next level, and how can we help them build their skills and really just push them and support them through that whole process.
Yeah, perfect example of this. Remy Elliott, he plays on the soccer team. He's probably the best kid on the team. He was this year. He probably will be next year.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to play in college, which he will. He will play in college somewhere.
Yeah.
He's good enough to do it. That's not the question. But it's always been a matter of, is it worth it to go to the high school if he wants to play at the next level? If he wants his best, to find the best opportunity he can, is it worth staying at the high school? And I don't think that should have to be a question that you wonder.
I think in terms of athletics, Wilmington plays really good competition. So I think we won't get into that yet, but I think kids are able to be seen more by colleges because of the competition that we play. And I think we're able to develop as players because of our tough competition. But I think one thing the coaches and the school can do better is filming and covering our games and helping kids with the process. Because I know some kids that they didn't get a ton of help. They got very little help from the coaches at all in reaching out to colleges and being recruited. They did it all by themselves. And so I think we have the athletics of Wilmington is at the point where we have kids who are good enough to get into college, right? We have a pretty good athletic program. How can we advocate for them and help them get recruited to the school?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's one of the big things. I think coaches and I guess everybody throughout the program should help those students to reach out to colleges or connect with coaches from colleges, whether it be D1, D2, D3, JUCO, whatever. I think it's important to do that. And one example I have of that is one of my friends, Jacob Broke, who he plays baseball and he's a very good player, very talented, and could most definitely play at the next level. He's been reaching out, or he had reached out to schools and stuff, and now he's actually gonna go play another year post grad at Cushing, and then he'll go on to play college baseball. But I know an important thing for him was when looking for the new coach, like I already mentioned for baseball, an important thing was, how are you going to help me to find somewhere to play baseball, or how are you going to connect me with other coaches to get to the next level? And it really shows how important that is for each of the players who want to play to the next level, and whether or not they want to continue playing at Wilmington High School or transfer, like you're talking about with Robert Elliott, and all that stuff. I mean, that's why having coaches who are going to connect and talk with them are so important, because we need to keep students at the high school, keep the athletes who are going to play well and really help us win at the high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you see kids who are from Wilmington playing at the college level pretty consistently. Like the track team, I don't know how it works. I'd imagine that they get a good amount of support from coaches and like people involved on the team with finding colleges, because we have a lot of kids who go on to play, or not play, I don't know what the right word is for track, but like they go on to run track or compete in like throwing events in college. But for sports, like it depends on the sport, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But you have kids like, there was a senior captain for soccer this year, Cooper Loisel. His little brother grew up playing with like the kids in our grade. He's probably played with us for 10 years. This kid is unreal at soccer. But he decided to go to Central Catholic because if he wants to play college soccer, again, just hammering home at the point, like there's not enough support in the soccer individual sport, I guess. I can only speak on my experience, but if you want to play, it's kind of a matter, do you want to risk going to the high school and not getting your name out there enough? Or do you just go to another school and then have to go through everything that comes with going to another school, meeting new people, obviously financial reasons? I think it's just a matter of, can Ingram help with that? Obviously as the AD, or where does the support come from, I think?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think once that question is, I think it's a mixture. I don't think just one person, right? I think it's from a mixture of both the school in general, the coaching, and the AD, which I think I honestly, with Ingram as the new AD, I really do think we're headed in that direction. He's done a really good job this year of improvements. I've seen a lot of good things happening. And I definitely think we're headed in that direction of building a really good support system for our athletes and getting to the next level and we already have pretty decent coaches at the high school. Like they're very supportive of their players and they're there for them. But I think we just need to help our coaches be more supportive of advocating for our kids to get to the next level.
Yeah.
I think Ingram will kind of push that issue and really get our coaches on that train.
I think one thing too that we need to do is a lot of times we see kids go to play college for play football in college or play basketball or whatnot. I think that we should also, as a high school and as a whole, really celebrate and focus as well on the people who are going for other sports. Like I know this year Noah Carrier is going to St. Anselm for track, which is extremely impressive. And I'm not quite sure what school she's going to, but I believe Abby LeClaire is going to go D1 or D2 for softball.
Did not know that. That's awesome.
And yeah, she's very good. But and same thing with Grace Smith, it's outside of the high school, but she's going D1 to Temple for fencing, which is incredibly impressive.
Tiffany's going for cheerleading.
Yeah, exactly.
Alex is going for gymnastics, and then we have a lot of really.
It's like
good
across
athletes.
the board too. It's not even like it's like one sport. It's just all
but
around.
All of them. That's all because of the club sports that they do.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's why.
How can we shift the interest? Right, like kids will play sports at the high school, right? But they focus more on the club sport, not focus more, but they play the club sport in order to get their voice out, their name out there, how can we kind of shift that back to the high school where, because it's like, I'm going to go to the high school so I'm a good natural athlete. How can like the high school is a place for me where I can grow, but they don't really get my name out there. How can we change that from they'll get my name out there and I'll get to the next level?
Yeah, I think also part of it is like certain sports club is more important. Like I know for soccer, club is way if you want to get recognized by colleges or like scouts of any sort,
Clubs are big.
club is way bigger than high school.
Yeah.
But people look at big schools, successful schools
Like
in
Central
high school,
Catholic.
like for example, Central Catholic. Scouts will be there. Like they'll look
Yeah.
at the school because of their reputation, which is kind of a segue into the big debate recently of should we remain in the Middlesex League or the Cape Ann League? Because if we remain in the Middlesex, that will help.
Getting names out there.
Yes, but the Cape Ann's too little. Like if we go there,
Yeah. So that's
Well, one thing also too, I mean, to look at is there are times when you have like people who can get the names out. Like if you look, and this is none of this is going to be in our time of being in high school, but you look at Jackson Gillis, he had 20 plus MLB scouts at his games, and that was all through the high school, not even through
Yeah.
club. And
I
he
forgot
played
about
club all
him.
through his life.
it's
But
crazy.
all those scouts were at the high school games, watching him play there. So that's where, and that's where you see them playing really good competition in the Middlesex. The Middlesex is probably one of the most competitive leagues in Massachusetts, and you're not gonna really see people stand out as well when you're playing in the Cape Ann League. But at the same time, it's really a question of would you rather see specific players develop and stand out more so they can play at the next level, or do you rather see your school as a whole win more and be more competitive in the league?
yeah. So I think it would be nice to win more games, right? I think
Obviously,
everyone
yeah.
wants to see them be on top at the end of the
Yeah.
game, right? But I think it's not. I think the reward is not worth the risk because we're gonna be. I mean, I'm not trying to put down the Cape Ann League, but like you just said, the Middlesex is a really good league, a lot of good competition. You kind of said it would benefit one player if you by staying in the Middlesex. I think it'd benefit the whole team because it makes all athletes right to do better, to work harder, push harder, to become better athletes in order to compete in this league. But you drop down to the Cape Ann League, kids could get away with slacking off because we're not playing as good as competition, right?
Yeah.
We wouldn't be building athletes as a whole by going down to the Cape Ann League, and as well as the bus rides would be so much longer,
Yeah, and
so
that also brings up the
much
question
longer. As like
finances.
yeah,
Yeah.
kids would
I'm
probably
sorry,
have to.
I
No,
interrupted
no,
you.
that's a good
true.
point. I never thought about that. Like we'd probably have to spend more funding with travel instead of better training facilities, right? Better training coaches to help reach the next level, as well as I know there's like district schools in New Hampshire. My girlfriend goes to one. She misses almost half her school day to go to away games because they're so far away. If we're going to similar type games, so many kids are going to be missing out on classes and school time, and like how that affect academics here at the high school by going to the Cape Ann League.
I bet it would be even worse because going forward, because aren't they changing like the school start time?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
So
it's-
we'd be later in the day, which means that they probably have to miss even more class time. And I don't know. I don't think the benefit of winning games in the Cape Ann League is not worth. I feel like that's the only benefit going to the Cape, in my opinion. That's the only benefit of going to the Cape Ann League.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're
It's
saying.
just the numbers on the scoreboard at the end of the game because we wouldn't be beating better teams.
I do think winning will much more help the school's reputation for sports, though,
I agree.
because you see teams like going with a couple wins in a season, and it's just like, okay, that team's bad. Nobody's thinking like you don't look at a record and you go, oh, I bet they played really good teams.
Yeah.
So like for kids going to the high school, if Wilmington High wants more kids to like stay local, it's kind of hard to balance the competition and also the records and stuff like that. But with the school becoming so small, like increasingly shrinking, it's like, at what point are we forced into the Cape Ann League? Because we are by far the smallest school. I
Yeah,
think.
I mean,
I see
us
what you're
still-
saying, but if you have a point that like kids would want to come here to play sports to win, but if they're trying to go to the next level, wouldn't they want to be playing better competition?
Yeah, you're
So,
right.
like,
But it's
So
tough.
then at that point they might as well go to Central Catholic anyway and play better competition.
Yeah.
So at what point do we say, like, yeah, we may not have the record that we want, but the competition that we're playing will help kids improve and will get their names out there more, I think. And it'll just, I don't know. You said, like, at what point are we forced to go into the Cape Ann League? At what point are we forced to do better and to rise up to the occasion?
Very true. Very
So,
true. There's a lot of questions, not
yeah.
a lot of answers.
Well, you
What
could
were gonna
also
say?
look at that as, I mean, if you want to stand out and play better competition, then that might be why many people go to Central Catholic or the Tech or whatnot. And I think the Tech plays worse competition than us, but
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. And that's when it really becomes a question of you will have people who want to play in the Middlesex League because they want to stand out or they want to play this great competition and improve. But those people could also have the option of going to these other schools. And I think that when you look at the high school playing this competition, you look at the Central Catholic playing this competition, people see Central Catholic and they're like, oh, they're playing the same competition. Maybe Central Catholic's playing a little bit more difficult. I want to develop. I'm going to go here since Central Catholic is winning, versus seeing the high school at if they're in the Cape Ann League, they're winning. They might not be playing as great competition, but they're still going to say they're winning. I want to go there. And they might not be playing the best competition, but it kind of provides a better incentive to go to the school rather than these other alternatives that could be playing similar to better competition.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, it's so tough. It's
Definitely it's not like a easy decision to make. There's so many things that go into it, and there's so many aspects to it, and it's really just, in the end, like, it's kind of up to the AD and the committee. Like, really, it's up
Yeah.
to, like.
He tried this year to get us Cape Ann, right?
I think
so.
I think parents didn't want to go though.
Maybe. I mean, it also kind of hurts with like unity of the school because you look at playoff games. If and I know it can be a pain because for me for baseball, and I mean I wouldn't trade anything to. I loved it and I enjoyed doing it so much, but it was, at the same time it was also kind of annoying. But we had to go to Pittsfield, which is a 2.5-hour ride.
Well, the thing is though, that's the way that they have the divisions.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not anything with the league. Which
But if you could also look at it as like you have these teams that you're going to be playing, and you have parents who want to go to the games, but it's going to be 40, 45 minutes away.
yeah, exactly.
Friends, students, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever, who want to go to the games to support, watch their players, friends, family.
But every game is like an hour away.
Every game's going to be so
You're
far
taking
away.
a ferry to Lake Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, exactly. Like, at least with the playoff games, it's like that only happens, at the end of the season, right? But imagine if every single away game was an hour away.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
like that really takes more time out of everyone's day to just, like we said, like the students' day, it'll take time more out of their day with their academics. Parents got to leave work earlier to get to games. So,
I mean, it also like kind of decrease like the student sections and like the social aspect of many
Yeah.
of these games too. And you look at us when we play the Tewksbury every year for football, the band always goes.
yep.
How are you going to travel to? How are you going to bring the band out to? I don't even know. Gloucester.
Martha's Vineyard.
Martha's
ferry.
Vineyard. Martha's
Ferry for
Vineyard.
the band.
Tubas,
Getting all
using the tuba as a sailboat.
Yeah.
It's a sail to get the boat across Martha's Vineyard in time for the game to start.
Yeah.
He's like, hoist her up there, boys.
Oh my god. What was I gonna say? I think it's also kind of like a benefit to the Middlesex League, talking about playoffs as you guys brought up. Because we're in the same division, no matter what league we're in, I think it's important to mention that playing in the Middlesex League, you get points for keeping it close against good teams. So like our soccer schedule, we played against Division I, Division II teams. And there were some games that we would tie or keep very close. And so we got rewarded for it to the point where we didn't have a 500 record, but we were still like a 16 seed in the tournament out of like 32. And so the preparation of playing against these good teams kind of gets us ready for the playoffs, where if we were playing against Cape Ann teams, we could have like a flipped record. We could be like, 14-4 or something like that, and we could be the 16 seed still.
Yeah,
So it's
and you
like
would be less prepared to compete in the playoffs.
exactly.
I think right now it's maybe we don't have the records we want, but I was going to bring up the point. We've done pretty well in playoffs recently. Most of our teams made the playoffs this year. Last year, the football made a pretty good run. Like hockey's been making good runs. We have what I think tennis. Didn't they get into there?
They're ranked third right now. In Division III. And last year they were ranked fourth, I think, and they lost to Martha's Vineyard, I want to say, or maybe not Martha's Vineyard, but they lost to some team in like the third or fourth round, so they made it pretty
exactly. I don't know. Maybe we don't have the records we want, but we are seeing really good results postseason, which, I mean, that has a lot of value to it, if you ask me. Hey, come to Wilmington and play in playoffs almost every year. Right?
And I think that comes from being in the Middlesex League, to be honest, because it's not as you don't have to be perfect to make the playoffs compared to if you're going for the Cape Ann, you're playing against bad teams. A loss means more than a loss against like Arlington or Lexington.
Yeah.
And also for like clubs and like aspiring sports, like I know there was a men's volleyball movement this year.
And last year, we had 12 kids. Last year, we almost started one last year. It was 12 kids, and then we never got it off the ground. That was kind of that was kind of our fault, though. That's not really a athletics department. That was more of a players lost interest kind of deal.
But like little like startup sports like that, or like I know chess clubs talking about
competing
against other schools and stuff like that. I don't know how that would work if we were in the Cape Ann League. I don't know if that's how it works or if that's separate from
chess would be more of a club, so it's more of a separate thing. But the volleyball would be the same league.
Yeah, so I feel like it'd be tough to start up sports like that or like smaller sports. I feel like it'd be harder to grow if you had to go an hour bus ride.
Yeah, like your very first season, you have all this traveling to do. But
yeah,
it's definitely a debate that will be ongoing. Even I feel like even if we move to the Cape Ann League, it's still going to be an ongoing debate of whether we should have or not. And I definitely think sides will keep flipping back and forth between whether or not to go.
I think it'll also depend on moving forward how many people are going to continue to leave and how many people are going to continue going to high school. Because if we see numbers continuously dropping, then like Dillon mentioned earlier, we might be forced into the Cape Ann League. Maybe not legitimately forced in, but we'll have no choice because we'll just be getting
blown out.
Blown out every game, and we'll just have such a small school. Where I know for baseball, we've played some big schools. I think this year we played Lexington, and we actually got really lucky. We did very well that game. We beat them. Much of it thanks to Austin Harper, but
shout out Harper.
They have, I want to say, 2,200 kids at their school, and we have like 600. So I mean, just going up against teams that or schools that can pick 13 kids out of 2,000 versus 13 kids out of 600 it's a huge difference, and it just shows how important the size is when it comes to schools and the league that you're in.
And even specifically more in sports, like we've talked about small teams and stuff like that. There's a good amount of kids at the high school who try out for like, I'll just use soccer because that's my experience is from. We play teams like Lexington and Arlington who cut more kids than actually like tried out in total for our team. So like the amount of kids who tried out at the high school, more kids than that were simply just cut from other schools.
Wow, that's crazy.
Crazy, and we almost beat Arlington last year. So it's just it's crazy to think when you look at stuff like that, why we would want to move to a new league that's worse when we could compete with the numbers we have right now with some of these big schools.
I think that's something, again, we talked about it last episode. You know, we have to advocate for the academics at the high school. I think we need to advocate for the success that we find here in the athletics. Like, we may not, if you go online and you just look at our record, you're not going to be very impressed. But if you dive a little deeper and if we put it out there, the stories about these athletic
players
achievements
and stuff like that.
Players signing with colleges, players doing well in games, our teams doing well against really hard competition. very respectable competition that people know is very tough. Like people say, oh, by the way, Wilmington played Billerica the other night. People are gonna be like, oh wow, Billerica's a really good football team, or like, what's a really
I know
good-
what you're saying.
Like Arlington, oh, soccer team played Arlington. Oh, Arlington's a pretty good
Yeah.
soccer team. Oh, Lexington, like baseball team beat Lexington. Wow, that's a really good school, right? We got to advocate those kind of things, and we got to advocate the success that we find.
Yeah, I agree. I think the most important way to show kids and also parents who are looking to play at the next level specifically is like we were talking about how like Audrey LeConte's going to Yale. We need to do that for sports. We need to be like
Like we
Noah
had it-
Carrier's going to play at
Can we
St.
can we
A's,
talk
stuff like
about
that.
Tyler Roberts for a quick second?
Yeah.
Played football here at the high school,
5
going to a Kansas City Chief mini camp, right?
Crazy.
Like we got. How is that not?
I would have captains practices a couple years ago. We'd be on one side of the field, and we would let Tyler Roberts use the other side of the field
The
because
train.
he was there all the time. So we're like,
Yeah.
yeah, of course you can use it.
Like
And now he's at a Chiefs mini camp.
yeah, we need to advocate those kind of things. The success of our players beyond high school needs to be pushed more for kids to see that because they too can have those opportunities if they're willing to put in the work and to work with our coaches and our staff here.
Yeah. All right. Stokes, special guest, final wrap up question. One suggestion to Wilmington High School for sports, what would it be?
I mean, I guess not as this wouldn't really be to the athletic department, but really just to any incoming students or any students who are going to be back. Just try something new. I mean, you look at all these experiences that you have, like Angus, you talked about earlier, wrestling and
Great experience.
and like I've mentioned before with golf, there's plenty of people who I know come in and they've maybe never even played golf before. And they love it. It's just you never know how much fun you're gonna have until you actually experience it, and whether that be a sport that you don't know anybody who plays, because I know you're gonna make friends, you're gonna enjoy it, and you're gonna really be united with that team, or a sport that all your friends play that you've never really tried out. I would just advise that you put yourself out there and really try to do something that you want to do and something that you think you'll enjoy, whether it be sports, clubs, classes you want to take, projects, jobs, whatever. My biggest piece of advice or biggest thing I'd advocate for is just to try new sports or new activities that you think you're going to enjoy, or even if you don't think you're going to enjoy, you just might want to try it out. It's a great idea to do so, and I would definitely advise that everybody do that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Try something new. You'll love it.
Yep. That's what we're all about at WHS, you know?
Yeah.
And I think especially, not to like drag it on here, but like you see the successful sports like football and hockey. We find success in both sports that kids have played their whole life and stuff like track and field, stuff like swimming, stuff like
Yeah.
volleyball.
There's
People
just,
find success in
everywhere.
trying new things and sticking with old things.
Mm.
So if the high school can keep developing that, making it better, I think sports is in a very good spot at the high school.
It's going in the right direction. And if enough time is put into it, which I think that's what Ingram wants to do, I think that's what he's trying to push for. I think it's going to happen. Then Wilmington Athletics is headed in a really good direction.
Yeah. So
And you definitely want to be there for that. Oh,
don't want to miss out.
no,
You don't want
do
to
not
miss
want to
out.
miss that opportunity.
So that just about wraps up the athletics episode 2 in the wraps.
Thanks
so
for joining us.
yeah, thank you for listening.
Stokes,
and
thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
to
welcome
have you.
anytime. Welcome anytime.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you for listening. Tune in to episode 3. Thank you.